Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new edition of the Lashing Out podcast and the Sports Now Network, brought to you by Good Dog Seltzers. Kevin, it's good to be back. We're going to be breaking down the rosters here. We're going to start with the quarterbacks here and safeties. Break nice little depth about every position group here for the Nittany Lions, and I think I'm pretty excited to get this rolled out here.
Yeah, this is just the first of several weeks. Last couple seasons, we've been previewing game by game, which probably hasn't been the most effective strategy that we've come up with. But now we're going to go position group by position group, kind of give you a deep dive into one position group on the offense, one position group on the defense coming up in the next couple of weeks, leading us into eventually the season opening game against Nevada. So pretty excited to go kind of in depth. In the past, we've only chosen, one or two players on each side of the ball that we think may make an impact, but now we're going to have the opportunity to do more of an all 105 kind of thing this year.
Yeah, and let's get right into it. The quarterbacks, we're taking the easy bait. With the first one, the quarterback as a position is pretty figured out. But obviously, Drew Allar is the heir to his own throne. But the problem is, if he goes down, who are you going with next? Are you going with Jackson Smolik, redshirt sophomore, or Ethan Grunkemeyer, redshirt freshman? It's just kind of that little depth issue. We ran into that with Sean Clifford and Taquan Roberson years ago at Iowa, and that was ugly. Things have been much better. But when you lose a guy like Bo Prugar to Missouri, and then that's no fault of his own, that's just a numbers game. He's got to go get his own. But it's just one of those situations where now there are a couple question marks behind Allar at quarterback.
There are, I think, we saw it last year. Drew Allar gets hurt against Wisconsin late in the second quarter, kind of a ho-hum game, really, until Bo Prugar came in for the second half because Ohio State was a bye week away, looming as that next opponent. And, it just wasn't really worth the risk. And, he probably had like a mild knee sprain of some sort. And Bo Prugar comes in 11 for 13, 98 yards, and leads a 21-point second half for Penn State. So the backup quarterback played a pivotal role. I think it'll be interesting to see. I think it's going to be Grunkemeyer. He's under the same quarterback coach in Ohio as Drew Allar. I think Jackson Smolik's kind of the odd man out. Had the bad knee injury last year, which made him unavailable, which made Grunkemeyer the backup quarterback for the playoffs after Bo transferred. But I think Ethan Grunkemeier's second year in the system, by all accounts, he's got just as much arm talent as Drew has. Maybe not as much poise and swagger as Drew has, but I think Drew found that a lot last year. And now it's going to be interesting to see kind of what is third-year starter Drew Allar. He's final year of eligibility. He didn't have to come back this year. He decides to come back, and I'm excited. I think he's got some room to grow as well. So, really, yeah, the answer is there at quarterback, but it's just, what is the ceiling for the quarterback room this season?
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things is, what he's going to reset the record books. I think at Penn State, by the time it's all said and done, he's out there to winning national championship. He got there. And let's be real, he has not had the greatest receiving core since he arrived in Happy Valley. Unfortunately for him, they made it all the way to the national semifinal last year without a quality wide receiver room. And that's, a testament to what he was able to do with Tyler Warren and guys like that, and also the running game. But, for him to be able to put up the stats that he has over the course of his career in University Park, it's a great situation. And I think one of those deals is, he's thrown for over 6,300 yards in his 3 years of action. Only 10 only 10 interceptions, 53 touchdowns. And that's, again, with a lackluster receiving group. And that to me, I think, is the most impressive thing. Now he's got some guys in Trebor Pena and guys like that I think they can actually, go out and see what he can do and throw the ball downfield a little bit and legitimize the deep threat and maybe he turns some heads yet again.
I think the thing I want to see most from Drew this year is deep ball accuracy. I know he's been coached to throw the underthrow deep ball, because if you underthrow a deep ball, there's a chance that it goes incomplete and you get a defensive pass interference. Uh, the problem with that strategy is it doesn't lead to a lot of completions, and then you're leaving the game in the hands of the ref to make a call for a 15-yard penalty. I really hope that he kind of takes some liberties, or maybe is able to convince the coaching staff that, like, no, I can hit these guys. And he found a lot of success with Amari Evans periodically when Amari was on, and a couple deep balls to Trey that went for big chunk plays, and of course the one really deep touchdown to Tyler Warren on the snap where Tyler was the center. Um, so I'm interested to see, like, how has he grown, because I think he's had all the arm talent in the world. It's kind of just, I think I've said this before. I was at Trevor Lawrence's first game at Clemson against Furman, and when Trevor Lawrence got to college, like, Trevor Lawrence had a massive arm. And if you ever saw Trevor Lawrence play in college, especially his freshman season, like, just didn't know what kind of weapon he had. I mean, it was just a cannon, and he had that thing loaded up, and he was throwing fireballs and fastballs, and everything was on a rope, and the wide receivers just couldn't catch it. And as you saw his career progress, you saw his arm talent get, like, he learned how to use the arm talent. He learned how to put touch on the ball, and he got more accurate. And senior season or third season starter Trevor Lawrence was unstoppable. And I think this is that trajectory for Drew. Has all the arm talent in the world, kind of was missing guys his first season, and maybe a little skittish at times. Last season he really amped up the toughness, really took on the role of kind of being a bruiser and putting that 6'5", 6'6" frame, whatever it is, to work. Now has he developed that arm talent? It's already a pro level arm. He's already got the talent to do it, but is it that next level of pro level arm? And if he can find some success on, especially on deep balls, more tight window throws, that he's not throwing to a 6'7", 260-pound Tyler Warren, and you know, can the quarterback make up for lack of wide receiver talent? Of course he can. I mean, he's got to have some trust in him, but if he can make some throws, he can throw guys open. And I think you see that a lot in the NFL, because the defensive backs are just so much better across the board. So yes, the wide receiver talent is going to be a little bit better this year. Can he also throw them open? Because if they're getting blanketed by the 6 5-star defensive backs that Ohio State has on their roster, like, he's going to need to make some throws. He's going to need to make some plays to go out and win the game. Like, this is a year he has to go beat Ohio State. It's been since 2016. So this is the 8th season since then. And he's going to have to make some of those throws. He's going to have to make the deep ball, because it is college football. You're going to live and die by the deep ball some games. And, like, if you hit the 45-yard bomb and, like, really jumpstart the offense that hasn't been doing anything for the first 3 quarters, like, that's the spark you need. And that's something that the quarterback can provide. And if he gets his arm talent, if it takes that next level, I mean, the sky's the limit for this guy.
Absolutely. I think he's going to be a top 10 pick next year. I think his legacy game this year is going to be Ohio State. He's going into the shoe, and he's got to get a win for Penn State, in my opinion, in this game. They need to finally take that hump. Everybody's taking Penn State to win the Big Ten, do this, do that. Well, that Big Ten championship could be very well be decided regular season wise at the Horseshoe November 1st. And I think it's important to note he's an Ohio native out of Medina, Ohio. He's got to get those guys, he's got to get that win in his home state. That would be the perfect icing on the cake for his senior year outside of a national championship. But he's got the talent. He's a great quarterback. He takes care of the ball well. Teams are going to sell out to stop Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton. It's that simple. What are they going to do? How can you adjust accordingly? Make Drew Allar beat you with his arm and beat you with his receivers in the tight end group. And if they're able to do that, the sky is the limit for Penn State in this offense. I think another good thing for him is this is year 2 under Andy Kotelnicki's system. You get the rawness and the newness out there. You add a couple layers here this year. You got a little bit more comfort. I think that's going to be something that is probably understated as we gear up towards the towards the season.
Yeah, I think the only question mark is probably only Caden Saunders and Liam Clifford are the returning wide receivers of note who have been in the Nittany offense. So how do the new wide receivers adjust to that? We'll get to that later in a couple weeks. But yeah, I think the only other thing that I want to see from the quarterback room is how do they treat Ethan Grunkemeyer? Knowing this is probably Drew's last season, I think the threat of a transfer is kind of out the window. Like it's not there because you transfer to start somewhere next year. Like you're going to have a chance to start at Penn State next year. So might as well stick it out. But I think it's important to get reps, especially the schedule early. Nevada, Villanova, like those kinds of games. Like Ethan's going to play a lot. So I think how they treat the quarterback room will be interesting. And you want Drew fresh, right? Like he went into the Ohio State game last year a little bit banged up. If Ethan plays and kind of takes some of those hits away from Drew because Drew's just not out there because they're blowing everybody out of the water, I think that is also a positive for the Nittany Lions.
You know, you look at it back to Drew Allar's freshman year when Sean Clifford was still the quarterback, and it seems like a long, long time ago. He played in 10 games, you know, and I think that's going to be something similar. If you can get anywhere between 8 to 12 games of action for Grunkemeyer or Smolik, whoever they decide to go with as that backup, that's going to be huge, huge for development purposes going into next year. But if you're able to do that, that means you're winning games big. That means you're dominating. It means you're getting Allar off the field, getting him nice and refreshed. And I think that's a really good situation for Penn State to be in. We're going to talk about the safeties when we come back from this break on the Lashing Out podcast on the Nittany Sports Now Network. Welcome back to the second segment of the Lashing Out podcast on the Nittany Sports Now Network. He's Kevin. I'm Jarrod. Kevin, we talked about the quarterbacks in the first segment. Let's talk about the safeties, their defensive back brethren. You know, in this segment, this is a position group under Anthony Poindexter that has been superb in years past. Since he arrived from Virginia, he has done an absolutely incredible job at coaching these guys up and producing quality safeties year after year after year. And they're not going to be, you know, big name, marquee names like, you know, some of the guys in linebacker or defensive end. But these are guys that do their jobs well, and play a really quality brand of football.
Yeah, I think the biggest addition this year to the safety room is that Zaki Wheatley is back. Sure, they lost KJ Winston last year, but they lost KJ to a torn ACL in the first or second game. Mm-hmm. I mean, he didn't play anything last year, and the onus to be a strong free safety really came on Zaki Wheatley. And you know, Jalen Reed was there; he's a strong safety, but Jalen Reed's impact was really mitigated last year until Zaki got up to speed, and that Jalen could trust Zaki. And I think Zaki had an absolutely fantastic season last year. And if he's a redshirt senior now, so it's his fifth year. He's got a significant amount of playing time. I feel like the 2 seasons prior to last year, kind of that third safety. But last year was his chance to sign. Was his chance to shine, and just sure was he KJ Winston? No, but I mean KJ Winston going into last season was probably an early second, late first round pick. And I have a friend who's an NFL scout, and I texted him right after KJ went down, or maybe it was like right towards the end of the season. I was like, if you're KJ Winston, do you still go out for the draft? And the NFL, my friend was like, yeah, like he's getting drafted no matter what. Even any of the question marks that could be there coming off the ACL injury, like it doesn't matter. You draft KJ Winston because he was that good, and the grade coming into last season was that high on him. So that's who Zaki was trying to replace. I'm not saying he's not. He's probably that kind of player now. I think he had that kind of a season last year and really adopted that free safety role really well, and was a very trusty back end guy for the season for the Nittany Lions last year on defense. And then his dad is also a great follow on Twitter. If you don't follow Mr. Zaki Wheatley on Twitter, he's always active during the games and engaging with people. So kind of cool to have that face back on X, the Everything app, but also to have his son back on the field for the Nittany Lions this fall.
Yeah, absolutely. A guy that I'm looking forward to seeing is DeJuan Lane. You've got he appeared in all 16 games, which is huge. had an interception, 3 pass breakups. I think those stats are indisputable. Whenever you're able to be that successful as a true freshman, is huge. And when you build that trust and you have that trust in the coaching staff as a true freshman, and you're getting that type of playing time, I think that's huge. And I think they also returned King Mack, who's back. I don't think he ever really wanted to leave, but things are the way they are in college football now. He didn't burn the bridge at Penn State, and now King Mack is back, and I expect him to get some time as well. And I think that's something to kind of look forward to down the road. A lot of times, you're going to see a 3-3-5 or 4-2-5 setup from Jim Knowles, and I think that's something that'll be interesting to see just how they deploy those defensive backs, how many corners they put out, how many safeties, those types of play, those types of things. And I think that's going to be one of those deals where, they're going to allow their safeties and their guys to be aggressive and get after it a little bit. And I think that's going to be fun to watch.
I think the battle at strong safety is going to be tight. And if this is year 2 of Tom Allen, I think it's DeJuan Lane's. He has the upper hand because it would be a second year in the system. DeJuan made some pretty bad freshman mistakes last year, but I mean, he was a freshman. There's a couple blown coverages and a couple times where it was just like, we need you a little bit more involved there. Or like your positioning, like Cattell was just off or just a little bit lost out there. And I think having all that experience, and then I think his experience ramped up later in the season. They got rid of the redshirt rule for the playoff games, so your 4 games don't count if you play in the playoff, and I think he benefited from that. And I think Jalen Reed was a little bit banged up going down the stretch, so he had some time and some pretty big moments to play. But it'll be interesting to see like what is his growth from freshman year to sophomore year. And then King Mack, it's his return to Penn State. Was there? Here's a freshman, went to Alabama and was under Kalen DeBoer for a year, and now is back. I think it's a very tight battle, and I don't think King Mack comes back if he doesn't think that battle is as close as it's probably going to be. And it might be that it's just a 1A 1B, and like whoever gets the start is kind of just on paper. I think snap count's probably going to be pretty close. I think DeJuan's a little bit bigger than King Mack is, if I'm not mistaken. I think King Mack's a little bit on the smaller side for a strong safety. I feel like he's in like the 5'10" range. I could be totally wrong on that and just making things up, but you can verify that for me but correct me if I'm wrong. But I think that battle is going to be really interesting to watch. And DeJuan Lane was a very highly recruited guy coming out of high school, got a lot of playing time in his freshman season. And I think if he can step up and be the recruit that he was and become a 2 or 3 year starter, it could be interesting.
Lane is 6'2", and King Mack is 5'10".
Hey, I even said 5'10". Look at that. I didn't pull a number out of my book. DeJuan Lane is not a redshirt sophomore though. He's a true sophomore.
He is a true sophomore. Yeah. He didn't. They burnt right through his redshirt year.
You said that he played in 16 games. That's my bad. Yeah, wasn't paying attention.
He
did not have a big role on the defense last year. He played a lot more special teams. But
yeah, I mean, and that's going to be one of those situations. You got guys like that, but he did get significant playing time, especially down the stretch. Another guy that got some serious playing time was Antoine Belgrave Shorter, who got some significant time down the in the playoffs, the last few games of the year, last 6 games of the year, especially. He played against Kent State, and then boom, from Purdue on, he was out there, especially on special teams, and that's where a lot of these safeties have made their mark, is on the special teams side of the football. But now it's their time, to get after it. And he's one again that you look at kind of how they handled the red shirts last year, and that's the fascinating thing for me is you look at Kent State 1-1. That's obviously game number 1. Purdue, Minnesota, Maryland. There at the end, those last 3 games of the year, and then obviously that's your 4 for maintaining that redshirt status. Then SMU, Boise State, and Notre Dame, all getting some significant playing time. And this is a young backfield, a young defensive backfield. Obviously, Zachy Wheatley has a lot of experience, but these guys are young, they're athletic, and they're able to fly to the football. And I think that's something that Jim Knowles is going to embrace and really capitalize on.
Yeah, I think the strong defensive secondary, strong safety group for Penn State, I think it continues this year. You know, they've rolled on from Marcus Allen to Jaquan Brisker, Jalen Reed, KJ Winston, and now I think this is just the next man up. And I think Penn State has done really well recruiting in the defensive backfield and coaching. I think Poindexter has done a great job on the back end there. So, yeah, I don't think this is a position to worry. I think the quarterback's not the position to worry on the offensive side of the ball, and I don't think your safeties are a position of worry on the defensive side of the ball.
No, and I think if there's one more player I want to touch base on, it's Colin Dinkins, the brother of Khalil Dinkins, tight end. I'm very excited to see kind of him get the training wheels taken off of him a little bit. He's appeared quite a bit on special teams. There's a redshirt junior, 6'2", 207 pounds out of North Allegheny. You know, appeared in 15 games last year, made 7 tackles. He's a guy that I think is going to be able to make some impact defensively. I don't think that he's going to play all four, be a 3-down guy, but I do think he's going to get some reps, and he's going to make the most of them.
Yeah, I think maybe going back just to the reps thing I think DeJuan Lane's probably more in on, you know, heavier downs where run is more likely, and maybe they split King Mac and put him in when pass is more likely. So maybe that's the 1A 1B split we get, just using their frame and using their abilities a little bit better, matching it up hopefully with what the offense is going to do.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is they have some depth, they have some options there, and in Poindexter, I think we all should trust.
Yeah, I agree. And it's football. One play can change the season. I mean, it's a contact sport. Injuries happen. So being this deep at such a critical position is just such a good place to be in.
Yeah, without a doubt. But the good news is for Penn State, both at quarterback and at safety, we think that they're in pretty good shape. We're going to talk a little bit more about what's going on around college football when we come back for the third and final segment of the Lashing Out podcast on the Nittany Sports Now Network. Welcome back to the third and final segment of the Lashing Out podcast, the Nittany Sports Now Network. I'm Jarrod and Kevin. Kevin, let's talk Heisman. You know, we talked about Drew Allar. We talk about his ability. He's a front runner for the Heisman this year, which is, you know, something that really we haven't seen for Penn State in quite some time, dating back to the Trace McSorley, Saquon Barkley era.
Yeah, is there a Drew Allar rap for the Heisman Trophy, like there was for Trace McSorley? Have you found that one on YouTube yet? Yeah, I mean, we're talking quarterbacks. We might as well talk what is now a de facto quarterback award, unless your name is Travis Hunter. I won't say the joke Shane Gillis said at the ESPYs this week. Feel free to go look that one up on your own time. It was a repeat from a prior joke, but anyways, Arch Manning is the odds-on betting favorite currently for Heisman at plus 700 on FanDuel, followed by Garrett Nussmeier. Arch, I think it's there for the hype. It's there for the name. It's kind of the Shedeur hype from last year with probably a little bit more credibility. And I say that simply because Dion was not a quarterback, and most of his family was a quarterback besides his dad, who was a wide receiver. So I think from a pedigree standpoint, I think Arch's name carries a little bit more weight as a quarterback. Texas is a successful team. He's just taking over. And at times he looked like he was the better quarterback over Quinn Ewers last year. So I think Sark knows what he's doing with quarterbacks. And I think he's shown that of late since he's kind of gotten his life back on track. So Arch is the betting favorite. Garrett Nussmeier, I mean, had a good year last year, is a junior, so he's only going to his second year starting. So I think maybe a year early.
The downfall for Nussmeier is his coach is Brian Kelly, and they'll lose 2 or 3 games that they shouldn't lose.
Yeah, I think Nussmeier laid an egg against Alabama and then didn't perform well in the rebound game against Florida last year. So kind of dropped two right back to back. It's LSU. Like, I mean, Joe Burrow's won the Heisman there, but before that, like it's tough sledding for a quarterback. They always have that one guy that it just seems like it's gonna be, and then it just doesn't happen. Was it Mettenberger they had it like 8 years ago? Like Mettenberger had so much hype around him, and then it just never happened for him. So I do have a soft spot for LSU. Maybe not the Brian Kelly LSU, but I think maybe it's a year early for Nussmeier. Like, yeah, he had a good season last year, but I think it's a year early for him. Next up is Cade Klubnik at plus 900. These are FanDuel ratings. Cade's been, I think the toughest thing for Cade is that he's the heir to the Trevor Lawrence throne. Had a bit of an up and down college career. Kind of got it going late last year. Early last year was awful for Klubnik. And kind of just like, you want to talk about a bad coach. Like, Dabo is not a bad coach, but he's been so stuck in his ways about not using the transfer portal that has been an absolute detriment to his team. And he wants to do everything, quote unquote, the right way. Doing things the right way means you're going out and winning games, man. You got to go with what the rules allow, and the rules allow transfer portal, and you got to go use it. And I think Klubnik's kind of been done in by that. And I think Clemson could have used a lot of help there. So those are your top three. Any of those top three you lean in more towards than the others?
Man, it's so tough because you just don't know what you're going to get. Honestly, I think Jeremiah Smith is right there as well.
He's next on the list.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a receiver, but at the same time, man, every time he touches the ball, he's a scoring threat. And I think Allar is, I think he's a dark horse. I think he's a guy that with a really good year, if they beat Ohio State and he has a big game, I think he's up in that. He gets an invite to New York, and that would be great for him and the program to get over that hump. But I mean, Klubnik is tough, but the good news is he plays in the ACC. Nussmeier, the bad news is he plays in the SEC, and his coach is Brian Kelly. Arch is a good quarterback, but the way that he has been deployed, I think, has been different because, I mean, if he was truly better than Quinn Ewers, and now Quinn Ewers earned his time at Texas, he probably plays a little bit more than what he did. But again, Sark's got to balance the program and stuff like that. But the hype surrounding Arch Manning is quite intense, and a lot of times guys like that, they don't always live up to the hype. He might have a great year, and I think he probably will, but I think the expectations that he's trying to live up to or that people have put on him aren't necessarily fair, but are also out of this world.
I think his name carries a couple votes as well. He'd be the first Manning to win the Heisman. Correct me if I'm wrong. Peyton didn't win it. Eli didn't win it. Did Papa Manning? Why is his name escaping me? Arch Senior, if you will. I don't believe he won the Heisman either. So could be the first of the Mannings to win the Heisman. I think that his name will carry a lot. Kind of some funny names on this FanDuel list. I haven't shown it to you, but Julian Sayin, quarterback for Ohio State, his first year starting. That's just the quarterback of Ohio State makes the list.
Hey, he gets to throw to Jeremiah Smith.
he does, but I think Jeremiah Smith wins the Heisman over Sayin, no matter how good of a year Sayin has.
Oh, yes.
Dante Moore transfer to Oregon from UCLA. So his first year in the system in Oregon, kind of a meh. Miller Moss was on this list as well. Very long shot, but Miller Moss being on this list after being benched last year at USC, I think is hilarious. If not,
Carson Beck is on one of them too at plus 3,000. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah, sorry, cut you off.
No, you're good. I mean, that's the funny thing is, they put these odds out prior to every season, and it's just fascinating to see, who they have. Some of these odds are, DJ Lagway with Florida plus 1,800. Sam Levitt with plus 2,800. He's at Ohio State. I'm sorry, Arizona State. So I mean, there are some wild times, but most of the out of the top 12, 11 are quarterbacks, and 9 of the past 12 years, the quarterbacks have won the Heisman. So I mean, it's a quarterback world.
I gotta look this up. What does South Carolina's schedule look like this year? Because Lenora Sellers is a very intriguing name. Plays an exciting brand of football. Probably a little bit too risky at times. At Missouri, at LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, at Ole Miss, at A&M. That could be interesting. And then obviously the Clemson game the week of Thanksgiving. That could be a pretty hefty schedule. And if South Carolina can navigate that, that's look out for Lenore Sellers, because they're going to go with how mistake-free he's able to play football. Gunnar Stockton at Georgia, I think, is interesting. Had a little bit of a splash last year in the playoff with the departure of Carson Beck. That could be interesting. Bo Perbula is a plus 10,000. Those are some really long odds. Nico made the list somehow after transferring. Nico Amalivia. Dylan Raiola, I think, is a sleeper. I think it's a second year starting, but really intriguing. I think he's a guy with a lot of talent, and if Nebraska was able to build up their offensive line this offseason, I think that could be really interesting. And I believe second to last week of the season they're in Happy Valley, so could be a fun, interesting matchup. And then the other funny name I had on my list, sorry, this is the last one I'll go to, Jackson Arnold. I don't even know where Jackson Arnold is playing right now. He's on his 5th college. He's now at Auburn. There's no way in hell.
Great.
There's no way in hell Jackson Arnold wins the Heisman. And also, hold on. I got to turn off my ad blocker. There is something that just broke today about Jackson Arnold. Apparently, let's see. Someone, Cole Kublick, told Josh Pate today that Hugh Freeze has told his defensive staff to take it easy on Jackson Arnold so he could build up his confidence. This is the end of July. The season starts in a month. That's not what we want to hear getting out of the program about a Heisman hopeful. Long shot, but Heisman hopeful. So I had no idea Jackson Arnold was in Auburn. So Oklahoma had a lot of high hopes for that guy.
Yeah, you learn something new every day. And then there are a lot of high hopes for Oklahoma. And
Sorry.
I think, not been great either.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of it. It's preseason.
Oklahoma had that really good game against Alabama last year. That was fun. That was fun for the rest of the college football world.
Right. But I mean, that's the preseason rankings, preseason odds are always interesting because at the end of the day, they turn to be pointless more often than not. But, Penn State's at the top in almost everything that you see, both, for players and for teams. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how James Franklin and the program handle all the noise. But before we go, Kevin, any parting shots?
Yeah, I do. This week, I live in a rather large neighborhood, so the roads to get in and out of the neighborhood tend to be long. It is 25 miles an hour. A lot of kids in this neighborhood. And just a message to everybody, go 25 miles an hour in the neighborhood. This lady was behind me. She was tailgating me so close. I set my cruise control to 24 miles an hour just so I'm not exceeding 25. And also, slower you go, the faster you can react. Kids don't respect stop signs. I don't know if you know this, but when they're riding their bikes, they don't respect stop signs. They're on these 20-mile-an-hour electric scooters and electric bikes in this neighborhood. It's nuts. There's a kid on a Suron that goes 35 miles an hour. It's bonkers that parents let their kids drive that. Anyways, this lady had pure road rage in the neighborhood. Couldn't see the bottom of her windshield in my rearview mirror. That was tough. And then I actually stopped at a stop sign instead of rolling through it. Crazy. And she honked at me. So just be patient. In a neighborhood, like, kids are out playing, especially it's the summertime and they're on break. So don't be an asshole driving, and watch out for children.
Well said, Kevin. For Kevin Quigley, this has been Jarrod Prugar on the Lashing Out podcast, reminding you, please drive safe. We'll catch you again next time on the Nittany Sports Now Network.